All right, power plant manager interviews. Are you ready to get prepped?
Absolutely. It's a super interesting job, and we're going to give you the knowledge and the skills to ace that interview.
Yeah, so think about it. You're not just managing people. You're managing these massive systems that keep the lights on for whole communities.
Right. High stakes.
High reward. And we're going to be using a couple of resources to help you along the way.
Yeah, we've got the career guide, Power Plant Manager, along with the interview guide.
Perfect combo.
Yeah. And of course, we'll be talking about how RoleCatcher can give you that AI edge.
Okay, so let's dive right in.
All right, let's start with a question you're pretty much guaranteed to get. Describe your experience managing a team in a power plant.
So not just any management experience.
No, it's got to be specific to this environment. Think about the challenges.
Okay, yeah.
Managing teams of technical experts, strict safety protocols, dealing with high-pressure situations when, the grid is strained.
Can you give us a concrete example? How would you actually answer that?
Sure. So let's say you led a team doing maintenance on critical equipment.
Okay.
You could talk about how you implemented a new preventative maintenance program using predictive data analysis.
Ooh, fancy.
And then you highlight the results. Maybe you reduce the unscheduled downtime by, I don't know, 15%, boosting the plant's efficiency.
Boom, numbers. I love it. And that's actually a great spot to mention how RoleCatcher's AI comes in, right?
Yeah.
It can analyze the job description and pick out those keywords, those skills they want, so you can tweak your answer to hit those points.
Absolutely. It really helps you tailor your response.
So smart.
Yeah.
Okay, what's another question that's likely to pop up?
All right. How have you maintained compliance with regulatory requirements?
The energy sector. Lots of regulations.
Oh, yeah. Lots of regulations.
Yeah.
And they want to know that you're on top of it.
Of course.
Yeah. You've got to be proactive. So don't just rattle off regulations, right? Pick a few key ones. OSHA, maybe some specific environmental permits mentioned in the career guide. Then you talk about the systems you use, whether it's digital tracking or audits, training programs, whatever you've got.
Oh, and don't forget, RoleCatcher actually links to tons of industry resources. So if they mention some obscure regulation you're not familiar with, you can quickly get up to speed.
Really good point. It shows you're dedicated.
Okay, so we've talked about experience, regulations. What about safety?
Safety. Always huge in power plants. Expect a question like, how do you prioritize safety in a power plant environment?
Right, because it's not just about saying safety first. It's about showing that you actually live it.
Exactly. You need to show a genuine commitment. The career guide actually mentioned some of the hazards power plant workers face. Noise, heat, dangerous chemicals, all that. Use that to paint a picture.
Yeah, and then share a time you went above and beyond, maybe spotted a hazard no one else saw and took action, prevented an accident, something impactful.
Right. And again, RoleCatcher can analyze that job description and see what safety skills they're really looking for.
So you can emphasize your strengths.
Yeah. So are you ready to move on from the interview questions for a bit?
Yeah, let's get some career insights, those juicy details from the career guide. What does it say about the job outlook for power plant managers?
Well, it's quite promising, actually. The industry trends section highlights a steady growth rate, meaning there is a demand for people like you.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
So good potential for growth and stability.
Yeah. And, the salaries aren't bad either.
Oh, let's hear it.
The median salary in a lot of regions actually exceeds 6 figures.
Whoa.
Yeah, high responsibility comes with high rewards, as they say.
Okay, so it sounds like a pretty good gig. But I imagine it's not all sunshine and roses, right? What are some of the downsides?
Oh, yeah. It can be demanding, long hours, stressful situations.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your team's safety, for reliable power. That's a lot of pressure.
That's definitely something to consider. So it takes a certain type of person. Dedication, a cool head.
A genuine passion for the energy sector.
Exactly. Now let's jump back into the interview prep. What's another question they might throw your way?
All right, here's one. Can you discuss your experience with maintenance planning and scheduling in a power plant setting?
This one seems pretty straightforward, keeping the plant running smoothly, right?
Yeah, on the surface.
Yeah.
But they are looking for someone who understands the complexities. Think about it. You've got planned maintenance, unplanned outages, regulatory inspections, all while minimizing downtime and maximizing efficiency.
Okay, so how do you showcase that you're up to the task?
Well, you share a specific example, maybe a time you had to juggle multiple maintenance projects with limited resources.
Sure.
You talk about how you use data to prioritize, how you communicated effectively with your team and other departments, and, of course, how you kept safety top of mind.
So basically, you're demonstrating organization skills, your ability to make tough calls under pressure, and your commitment to keeping things running safely. Okay, I'm
Exactly.
ready for another one. Hit me.
All right. How have you managed plant operations during peak demand periods?
Ooh, peak demand. That's when everyone blasts the AC or the heater. Things must get pretty
Wow,
crazy.
things can get pretty hectic. This question is really testing your ability to think on your feet, lead your team in a tough spot.
All right, so how do you even approach a question like that?
Be honest. Be transparent. Share a time when you faced a peak demand challenge and how you handle it. Did you have to implement load management to avoid a blackout?
Yeah.
Did you have to prioritize certain loads, rally your team for some overtime? Whatever you did, tell the story.
That's really about showing you can stay calm and lead effectively when the pressure's on.
Exactly.
Okay, another one.
Can you discuss your experience with budgeting and financial management in a power plant setting?
The money talk.
Yeah, the money talk. They want to know you're not just a technical whiz, but you can handle the plant's finances too.
Of course. Yeah. Makes sense. So what kind of things would you highlight in your answer?
Your experience with budgets, developing them, managing them, tracking expenses.
Yeah. Mhm.
Talk about finding cost-saving opportunities. Did you implement energy efficiency programs that saved money, negotiate better contracts? Maybe you made a strategic investment in a new technology that paid off in the long run.
So it's about balancing operational efficiency with financial responsibility, making sure the plan is running smoothly, but also, not breaking the bank.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm loving these interview question breakdowns. Can we do one more?
Absolutely. How have you managed and mitigated the environmental impacts of power plant operations?
That's a big one. Everyone's concerned about climate change, and power plants obviously have an environmental impact.
Absolutely. Interviewers want to see that you are aware of the challenges and committed to solutions. Walk them through your proactive approach.
Okay, yeah.
Share examples of programs or initiatives you've led to reduce emissions or conserve water, minimize waste, whatever you've done.
So maybe talk about transitioning to cleaner burning fuels or implementing a system for capturing and reusing waste heat.
Right, or even something as simple as reducing water usage in the plant's cooling systems. Anything that shows you're being responsible.
And of course, you want to highlight your understanding of environmental regulations and how you've ensured compliance.
Of course, it shows you're not just talking about sustainability, you're actually living it, walking the walk.
Right. It's about striking that balance between keeping the lights on, keeping costs down, and being good stewards of the environment.
You got it. It's a complex job, but a really fascinating one. Welcome back. Ready for more interview questions?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with your best shot. What else do power plant managers need to be ready for?
Well, they often like to ask about outage management.
Outages, yeah. Planned or unplanned, those can be a real headache, right?
Absolutely. Disruptive, costly, but they're essential, for safety, reliability. So expect a question like, can you discuss your experience with outage management in a power plant setting?
Okay, so what are they really looking for with this question?
They want to see you can handle those situations effectively, minimize the downtime, talk about prioritizing tasks, managing the team, making sure everything is done on time and within budget.
So walk them through a specific example.
Yeah, like maybe a time you successfully managed a major outage. Could be a planned upgrade or an unexpected equipment failure.
Okay, I see.
Talk about how you developed the outage plan, coordinated with different teams, managed all the resources, communicated with stakeholders, and of course, kept safety a top priority.
So it's really about showcasing those organizational skills, Ken, right?
Yeah,
And your ability to adapt to those challenging situations.
absolutely. And bonus points if you can show you brought an outage back online ahead of schedule and under budget.
That's always a win. Okay, what else? What else might they ask?
All right, here's one that really tests your understanding of the bigger picture. How have you ensured the power plant's operations align with the demands of the energy grid?
Ooh, okay. So it's not just about keeping the lights on in the plant itself. It's about coordinating with the entire grid.
Exactly. Power plants are part of a complex system, right? It needs to balance supply and demand in real time.
That sounds complicated.
It can be,
Yeah.
but when answering this question, focus on your knowledge of the energy grid, how power plants interact with it.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about your experience monitoring grid conditions, coordinating with the grid operators, adjusting the plant output to meet the demand, things like that.
So showcasing that you understand the plant's role within the larger energy ecosystem.
Exactly. You could also mention any experience you have with grid management technologies or protocols like demand response programs or ancillary services that help stabilize the grid.
Wow, there's a lot to know. It sounds like a power plant manager needs to wear a lot of different hats.
They do. Technical expert, leader, communicator, you name it. And speaking of communication, that's another important area they'll likely ask about.
Yeah, communication is key in any job, but especially when you're managing a team and coordinating with so many different people.
Exactly. You're constantly communicating with your team, with other departments, with stakeholders, sometimes even the public.
So how do you impress them with your communication skills?
Well, they might ask something like, describe a time when you had to communicate complex technical information to a non-technical audience. How did you approach it?
Yeah.
Choose an example that highlights your ability to adapt your communication style to the audience. What works for engineers might not work for, say, a group of community members.
Like, yeah, you need to speak their language.
Exactly. So maybe you had to explain a technical issue to local residents or present a budget proposal to the company's board of directors. Walk them through how you made the information clear and understandable.
So, using analogies, visual aids, maybe breaking down complex concepts into simpler terms.
Exactly. And don't forget about active listening. Make sure you're addressing their concerns and answering their questions thoroughly.
So it's about being a good communicator and a good listener.
Absolutely. Now let's circle back to innovation for a moment. We touched on this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing again.
Yeah, innovation is huge in the energy industry right now. Lots of new technologies and changing regulations.
Exactly. Power plant managers need to be adaptable and open to new ideas. So be ready for a question like, how have you fostered a culture of innovation within a power plant team?
Okay, so they want to see that you're not just maintaining the status quo, you're pushing for progress.
Exactly. Share examples of how you've encouraged your team to be creative, experiment with new approaches, and come up with better ways of doing things.
Like, did you set up a system for collecting employee suggestions? Or hold brainstorming sessions to generate new ideas?
Those are great examples. You could also talk about how you've provided resources for professional development or encouraged your team to attend industry conferences and workshops.
So you're creating an environment where people feel empowered to innovate and make a difference.
Exactly. Now let's switch gears and talk about conflict resolution. Disagreements are bound to happen in any workplace, but especially in a high-pressure environment like a power plant.
So they might ask, describe a time when you had to resolve a conflict between two team members. How did you approach the situation?
Exactly. And what they're really looking for is your ability to act as a mediator, to bring people together and find a solution that works for everyone.
Okay.
So pick an example where you successfully resolved a conflict. Maybe two team members had different ideas about how to approach a project or were clashing over resources. How did you handle it?
Right. Did you meet with them individually? Did you facilitate a group discussion? Help them find common ground?
It's about showing that you can listen to different perspectives, communicate effectively, and find a solution that addresses the root cause of the conflict.
And creating a more harmonious work environment in the process.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about integrity, a quality that's essential for any leader, but especially crucial in a field as important as the energy sector.
Right. You're responsible for the safety of your team, the reliability of the power supply, the environmental impact of the plant. Ethical considerations are huge.
Absolutely. So when they ask something like, describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision that required you to uphold ethical principles, what were the challenges and how did you overcome them? Choose an example that shows your commitment to doing the right thing.
Even when it's tough.
Exactly. Maybe you had to report a safety violation, even though it meant delaying a project. Or you had to stand up to pressure from superiors who were cutting corners.
So be honest and transparent. Explain the situation, the dilemma, your decision-making process.
And most importantly, emphasize the ethical principles that guided your actions. It shows you're not just a good manager, but a person of integrity.
Okay, that's a powerful message to send. What else should we cover?
Let's dive into the world of data. Data analysis is becoming increasingly important in every industry, and the energy sector is no exception.
Yeah, with all the sensors and monitoring systems in a power plant, there's a ton of data available.
Yeah.
But it's not just about collecting it, it's about knowing what to do with it.
Exactly. So interviewers might ask something like, how have you used data analysis to improve power plant operations? They want to see that you can use data to identify trends, solve problems, and make informed decisions.
Okay.
Share a specific example of how you've done that. Maybe you use data to optimize fuel consumption, improve efficiency, or develop a more effective maintenance schedule.
Walk them through the process. What data did you collect? What tools did you use to analyze it? And most importantly, what impact did your analysis have?
It's about showing that you're not just a data geek, but that you can use data to make a real difference.
Right, that makes sense. What else should we be ready for?
Cybersecurity. With power plants relying more and more on digital technologies, the risk of cyber attacks is a major concern.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. A cyber attack on a power plant can have some pretty serious consequences.
It could. So be prepared to answer a question like, how have you ensured the cybersecurity of power plant systems?
Okay.
Talk about your experience implementing cybersecurity measures, things like firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and strong password policies. Highlight how you've kept your team informed about cyber threats and trained them to identify and respond to suspicious activity.
So creating a culture of cybersecurity awareness.
Exactly. It shows you're taking this issue seriously and that you're proactive about protecting the plant from potential attacks.
Okay, I'm feeling more and more prepared with each question we cover. What's next?
Let's talk about stakeholder management. Power plant managers don't operate in a vacuum. They have to interact with a wide range of people, both inside and outside the organization.
Right, like regulators, community members, investors, government officials.
Exactly. So be ready for a question like, describe a time when you had to communicate with stakeholders about a sensitive issue related to power plant operations. How did you approach this situation?
Okay, this one seems tricky. You got to be careful about how you handle sensitive information.
You do. The key is to choose an example that demonstrates your ability to communicate clearly, build trust, and manage expectations.
Maybe a time when you had to address community concerns about noise or emissions from the plant, or a situation where you had to inform investors about a potential financial setback.
Exactly. Explain the issue, how you approached it, and the outcome. It's about showing that you can navigate those complex relationships effectively, even when dealing with challenging topics.
All right, that makes sense. What else should we cover?
Let's talk about a quality that's essential for any leader, especially in a high-pressure, high-stakes environment like a power plant. Resilience.
Yeah, things don't always go according to plan. You need to be able to roll with the punches and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. So expect a question like, describe a time when you faced a major challenge or setback in your work as a power plant manager. How did you handle the situation?
Okay.
Choose an example that shows your ability to bounce back from adversity, learn from your mistakes, and maintain a positive attitude. Maybe you had to deal with a major equipment failure that caused a prolonged outage, or a sudden change in regulations that threw a wrench into your plans.
So walk them through how you assessed the situation, came up with a plan, mobilized your team, and ultimately got things back on track.
Exactly. And don't forget to highlight what you learned from the experience. It shows that you're not just a problem solver, but that you're constantly growing and improving as a leader.
All right, I'm feeling pretty confident now. But before we move on, can we talk a bit more about RoleCatcher and how it can help people prepare for these interviews?
Absolutely. RoleCatcher is a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to ace their job interviews. It's like having a personal career coach in your pocket.
Yeah, we've mentioned it throughout this deep dive, but I think it deserves a bit more attention.
I agree. So let's start with its AI-powered resume and cover letter builder.
That's a lifesaver. Writing those documents can be so time-consuming and stressful.
It can be. But RoleCatcher's AI can analyze the job description and tailor your resume and cover letter to highlight the skills and experience that are most relevant to the specific role you're applying for.
So you're not just sending out generic applications, you're sending documents that are specifically designed to impress that particular employer.
Exactly. And it can even suggest improvements to your existing documents, helping you make them stronger and more compelling.
That's amazing. What else can RoleCatcher do?
It also has a fantastic interview practice tool that lets you record your answers to common interview questions and then get personalized feedback from its AI.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a mock interview with an expert who can give you specific pointers on how to improve your delivery and content.
Exactly. It can help you identify areas where you're strong and areas where you need to improve so you can walk into that interview feeling confident and prepared.
And the best part is it's all powered by AI, so you can get this feedback 24/7 whenever it's convenient for you.
Exactly. RoleCatcher is designed to be your partner throughout the entire job search process, from crafting the perfect resume to acing that final interview.
I love it. It's like having a secret weapon in your arsenal.
It is. And it's available to everyone, so I encourage all of our listeners to check it out and see how it can help them land their dream jobs.
Great advice. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've tackled some tough interview questions, explored the power of RoleCatcher, and gained valuable insights into what it takes to succeed as a power plant manager. But don't go anywhere, because we're not done yet. We'll be back with the final part of this episode, where we'll wrap things up with some final tips and insights to help you land that dream job in the energy sector. Okay, final part of our power plant manager interview deep dive. What haven't we covered yet?
Well, we've talked about a lot of the tough questions, but one that often throws people off is, what are your salary expectations?
Oh yeah, the salary question.
Yeah.
Always a bit awkward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how do you answer that without, seeming too demanding or selling yourself short?
It's all about preparation and having a good strategy going in. Before the interview, do your research.
Okay, yeah.
Use resources like those RoleCatcher career guides. Check out websites like Glassdoor.
Yeah.
See what other power plant managers with your experience are making in your area.
Right. Get a sense of the market rate.
Exactly. And then, instead of just throwing out a number, give them a range. Something like, based on my experience and the responsibilities of this role, I'm looking for a salary in the range of X to Y.
Oh, I like that. That sounds a lot better than just saying, give me this much money.
Right. It shows you've done your homework and you're being realistic. And if they push for a specific number, you can just reiterate your range and emphasize that you're open to negotiation.
Okay, good strategy. Now, what about the end of the interview when they ask, do you have any questions for us?
This is your chance to shine. Show them you're engaged, you're curious. Ask about things that are genuinely important to you.
Okay, so what kind of questions should I be asking?
Well, think about what you want to know about the company culture, their commitment to sustainability, their vision for the future.
Yeah.
You could also ask about the team you'd be working with, professional development opportunities, or the career path within the organization, things like that.
Okay, so basically, I want to ask questions that show I've done my research and I'm thinking seriously about whether this is the right fit for me.
Exactly. And avoid questions that could easily be answered with a quick Google search. You want to impress them with your thoughtfulness.
Makes sense. So we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
What are your final thoughts? What are the absolute key takeaways for anyone prepping for a power plant manager interview?
All right, here's the rundown. First, show off that deep understanding of power plant operations. All that stuff about energy production, maintenance, safety protocols, environmental regulations. You need to know it cold.
Yeah. Got to prove you can handle the technical side.
Absolutely. Second, highlight those leadership skills. Give examples of how you've managed teams, motivated people, made tough decisions, all that good stuff.
Those leadership skills are super important, right? Especially in a high-pressure environment like a power plant.
They are. Third, emphasize your dedication to safety and compliance. The energy industry is heavily regulated, so you need to show them you're serious about safety and following the rules.
Makes sense.
What else? Well, you need to prove you can think strategically, solve problems, and communicate effectively. You'll be interacting with all sorts of people, so those communication skills are key.
So basically, you need to be a well-rounded individual with a diverse skill set.
You got it. And last but not least, don't forget about RoleCatcher. It's an amazing resource that can help you prepare for every step of the interview process.
Totally agree. RoleCatcher is a game changer.
It is. All right, so that wraps up our power plant manager interview prep. I hope you found it helpful.
Super helpful. Thanks for sharing your expertise.
You're welcome.
And to all our listeners out there, good luck with your job search. Remember, the energy industry needs skilled, passionate people like you. So go out there and make it happen. And in the meantime, stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of work. We'll be back with more insights, tips, and resources to help you achieve your career goals.